Care2. Happy Friday. It is October 3rd, 2008, and I'm here with this week's Rant and Rave. Now, I'm flying solo. Unfortunately, Eric and I are sort of separated. I'm actually not in Washington, D.C. this week, so I'm going to just be, I get to do both, which is exciting. I want to start with this week's rant, which, you know, many of you may have seen earlier this week. We were all sort of focused on the bailout stuff and what was going on with that, especially after the House failed to pass Monday's initial version they brought to the floor. So we're all following the bailout. We're all following the vice presidential debate between Sarah Palin and Joe Biden. And so there's this little tiny story that was actually not so little, and sort of got lost in the mix. And I want to sort of bring it back to the fore as we all start our weekend, because it's just that interesting. And that is that Attorney General Michael Mukasey finally announced that he was going to appoint a special prosecutor to look into the dismissal of 9 fired U.S. attorneys. You might remember the Bush administration fired 9 U.S. attorneys back in 2006, and there were questions about whether these were politically motivated and the propriety of that, which was this giant scandal that unraveled over the course of 2007, eventually led to the resignation of Alberto Gonzales and several other people within the Justice Department who had sort of aided and abetted this sort of politicized firing. We've seen more about this as the internal report that was released by the Inspector General this week, which sort of precipitated the announcing of the appointment of a special prosecutor by Mukasey. But the report was absolutely scathing in calling out the White House for refusing to cooperate. Notably, Karl Rove, White House counsel Harriet Miers, and actually she served the entire time until I think it was the beginning of 2007 under Bush, and Monica Goodling, who worked under Alberto Gonzales and was sort of the one responsible for overseeing a lot of these sort of shenanigans that were going on. But they refused to cooperate with the Inspector General, which is shameful. Shame, shame, shame. Shame, shame, shame. Yeah, I'm not really good at that finger wagging thing. Anyway, so the rant is that we need to demand that Karl Rove and Harriet Miers testify. These folks need to be subpoenaed, and if they aren't subpoenaed, I want criminal charges brought. This is how bad it is. I mean, this is bad stuff. Now, Goodling actually testified in front of Congress under limited immunity after having refused to testify, the first Justice Department employee ever in history to invoke her Fifth Amendment privilege. And she eventually testified under limited immunity, but then she refused to cooperate with the Inspector General. So we're going to see what happens with this, but we are even seeing through the release of this report that it was more political than we even thought. That notably, David Iglesias, who was the U.S. Attorney for New Mexico, there was a lot going on where they were trying to get him fired. The Republican Party and top Republicans, including Senator Pete Domenici and Representative Heather Wilson, they were trying to get him fired. Actually, as part of this report, it was announced that the chair of the state Republican Party wrote specifically to try to get him fired, which of course they were successful at because he was not looking sufficiently into voter fraud, which there's a long history of this sort of being code. This is the way the Republicans are able to suppress voter outreach efforts. So that is my rant, and I sure hope that Karl Rove and Harriet Miers do the right thing and sort of testify about what they know, because it's clear this goes straight to the White House. My rave is not really a rave this week. It's sort of a qualified, tepid rave. It's not very ravey. And it really is about the passage of the bailout bill, which, you know, is not a good piece of legislation. Nobody likes it. But after the failure of the initial version on Monday, the stock market tumbled by about $770 billion, 770 points, over $1.1 trillion in value in a single day. That's the largest in history. The credit markets have frozen up to the point where states and localities, municipalities can't even be borrowing money. It has tripled, quadrupled, quintupled the cost for companies that are healthy to do business. It's just not a healthy situation. And I know a lot of great progressives. Michael Moore has been really outspoken on this. David Sirota has been really outspoken on this. A lot of folks have talked about how we need to take our time. Dean Baker, who's an economist with EPI, to take our time on this issue. And you know, economics is really it's about psychology as it is as much about fundamentals and reality. And I unfortunately felt like we needed to pass this in order to hopefully create some stability in the market. And I am also hopeful that the next administration, whoever that might be, is going to take advantage of this time after sort of this initial outlay of $250 billion and will sort of revisit this plan and take a look at how to minimize the cost to the taxpayer, all of us, in the wake of this absolute reckless behavior on the part of Wall Street. And hopefully, I'm hopeful that it's going to also include some more regulation, stronger oversight, and really moving away from the philosophy really espoused and promoted initially by President Reagan, and that we really saw over the past 25 years, a sort of laissez-faire attitude. Because guess what? They took the risk, and now we are the ones who are suffering from that. So with all that happy talk, I hope everyone has a great weekend, and we will see you next week. Big presidential debate coming up on Tuesday. Please follow it on Care2 Election Blog. Give us your thoughts as always, and take care.